Hello, friends. Welcome to another edition of Coach's Corner. I'm your host, Robert Imbriali, and, getting sick of being Mr. Nice Guy. Not really. We're going to talk about that today. Talk about a few things, actually. It's been interesting. If you think about where we've come, we're looking at right now, we're saying, okay, it's not coming up on Facebook today. Oh, well. So we're looking at a couple of things here that are interesting. It's like I'm looking at the calendar and seeing quite clearly that we're just about 3 years into the craziness, right? If you think about 2019 seems like a decade ago, right? It seems like it was so long ago. And we keep going through this period, and we keep pushing through, and things are wonky, and our world is just upside down everywhere, and things just aren't normal, right? And you might say, okay, so yeah, no big deal. We all know that that's going on. That's not a mystery. That's just what's happening. So the real question then becomes, how are people reacting to it? Well, there are some people who say, I'm not going to react to it. I'm not going to react to any of this stuff. You know what? I don't watch the news. I've tuned it all out. I don't want to hear anything. I just don't want it to be part of my existence. Great. Problem is, we still exist in this pool, right? We still exist in this environment where things are crazy. And people are not normal. And people are not experiencing a normal happy life like they may have known back in 2019. Things are drastically different today for many people. Some people aren't working anymore. Some people are working from home where they never worked from home before. Some people have 2 jobs. Some people have no job, right? Some people don't have enough money to make ends meet. Some people are doing okay. A little few people are doing well, but it's sort of uncommon now to hear that. To hear a lot of people are really struggling. And you might say, well, I'm going to tune all that out. Rob, don't give me this. I don't want to pay attention to it. I want to know nothing about it. And I say, that's great, but you can't really tune it out because it's an energy, right? And the energy is unsettled. It's uncertain. And what we're starting to experience now are 2 dominant emotions people are having. And it's interesting because they're probably the two worst emotions that anybody can experience in terms of building their life and being happy and being successful. And one of those emotions is fear. We know that's been pushed a lot. We got a lot of fear out there, right? A lot of people are feeling very fearful, and they continue to feel fearful. And you see that, you just walk outside and you see the fearful people. They walk with their head down. They don't make any eye connection. Maybe they have a mask on, right? They're doing whatever. And they're in fear. They're still in fear around all of this. Get it. The media is not your friend when it comes to that. If you're going to feel fearful, they're really going to push that agenda because that is their message, right? And the other emotion that is really tough is anger. And there are a lot of people who are just fed up and frustrated, and they just can't take it anymore. And you could feel the anger just bubbling up in society, right? There's a lot of anger. So if you want to be successful in your life, your career, and your family life, if you have fear and anger, and some people have both, right? Fear and anger, you have those things working together, it becomes really difficult to move forward. It becomes really difficult to push forth and do the projects you want to do and create the business you want to create and live the life you want to live. These emotions are very taxing on you physically, not only emotionally, but also physically. So when I say no more Mr. Nice Guy, what I'm talking about is out there in the big wide open spaces, right? We're seeing it. We're seeing the way people drive. We see people not being as kind and not being as polite, not being as patient as maybe they were. Go back to 2019. That's the sort of our set point, if you will. We go back there and we say people were nicer and people were kinder and people had more patience. Where you're not seeing that anymore. You just don't see people with all that kind of patience anymore. People are they're rushed, they're angered, they're upset. And I was thinking about that today for myself, and I was saying, okay, here we are, and we're doing this week. The week is coming together. I'm doing everything that I'm doing, and I turn around and I go, is it really Thursday already? How did we get here? And the truth of the matter is there's just so much coming at us now, so many things rolling that we're not really enjoying life the way we would. We're not as calm. We're not as easygoing. We're not as, we'll just take it easy. We'll do something, we'll take the day off. And it's like, it's really hard to find time to take off because my list is full and there's all kinds of things that need to get done. There's clients I need to service. There's projects I'm working on. There are people I need to speak to. There are interviews I need to set up. And it just goes and goes and goes. And we never get to the point where, there's white space in the calendar. Never used to be like that. There was a lot of time where I could just say, you know what, I don't feel like working on Friday. I'm not going to come in. Or Monday, I would skip a day if I don't want to come in on Monday. And I look at my calendar. I was like, can I skip Monday next week? I look, and there's already 2 or 3 things on the calendar that I need to be in studio for. So what's happened with a lot of us is time has really been compressed and it's sped up. And what we're doing is we're just doing a lot more, and we're having to process a lot more. And all the things that we're seeing in the media, the big news stories and such, we want to tune them out. We want to not pay attention to them. And you get to a point where you say, I don't think there's anything else that could shock me. And then the next story that comes up is shocking, right? It's like, oh my God, we've never seen this before. This is crazy. And we're hit again. We're back into that space. And I think what's going to happen, and I've been talking to a lot of people who are kind of, quote, in the know, and they've been saying that we're going to see this happen more and more, certainly coming into this fall. I don't know what's going to happen after this fall, but it's going to be that way, and it's going to get a little rougher for us. And, we're going to have to work at, managing our emotions, because we can't go through life in fear and anger. We're not going to create anything. Nothing good comes from that. You have a whole society. If you think about it, everyone's fearful and everyone's angry. There's no cooperation. Nobody's getting along. We're getting more and more and more divided. So what I wanted to bring to you today was some thoughts on how to, not get into that and not get sucked into it. It's not easy, granted. I see it for myself. Sometimes I get up and I'm just angry, and it's like, what am I angry about? And it's like, and I have to work through that to get that anger out, to find out, well, it's not really anything that's going on with me or my life, but it's all the stuff that's out there. And it's like, it's so frustrating, right? And, they try to make things to scare us too. So there's so much that you're listening to in the media that is so fearful. So you always got to come back to, your present moment. You got to kind of center yourself here and say, okay, I know that there's craziness out there. How am I doing right now? And I ask that question. So how am I doing right now? I'm like, okay, nothing, no threats right here. Everything's good. And I can kind of calm that down. And what I realize is most of the time when you're feeling those emotions, it's a projection, right? It's a projection of what might happen in the future. Oftentimes our projections aren't accurate, and those things don't happen. So what we need to do is just come back to the present moment and say, okay, so what's really happening here? Is there anything I need to worry about right now? So when I get angry about something, first question I'm going to ask is there something I can do to change the situation? Good question, right? Oftentimes, guess what the answer is? No, nothing at all. It's just out there. You're going to have to learn to accept it. Or it's not my battle. I often use this one. It's like, it's not my battle, right? I see people arguing or whatever, and, in a store, I'll find that. And it's like, well, I could get involved, but truthfully, that's not my battle. That's them to work that out. That's for them. Unless somebody comes to me specifically and says, I need help with, then if I agree to it, then it will become something that I will get involved in. Otherwise, it's not my battle. Can't take them all on. You can't take them all on. How about the fear thing? The fear thing's another one, right? The fear is out there in droves. It's everywhere. Fear, 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 fear. It's all you see in the media. How do you deal with the fear? Well, the fear often isn't, again, of the current moment. The fear is always about what could happen, right? It's a projection into the future. How often do those projections come true? Very rarely. Come true occasionally, but very rarely. So you always come back to your present moment and you say, okay, how am I feeling right now? Am I fearful right now? Is there anything here that I need to be afraid of? Well, the only thing I need to be afraid of right now is, well, if the internet connection drops or the power goes out or something like that. Other than that, no, everything's good. So I don't even worry about those things. As the power goes out and the internet goes out, so what? I'll start a new stream. Big deal. Not a big deal, right? So we got to always be cognizant of how we're feeling. Check in 3, 4, 5 times a day. And be on top of that, because it's easy, like I said, to get sucked into it. It's also easy to get sucked into what I call the emotions of society, right? We look at other people who are angry, and all of a sudden we start feeling angry. Everyone else is fearful, so we say, well, there must be something to fear, so we start being fearful. And I would say disconnect from that and just ask yourself, do you really feel fearful? Or are you feeling fearful because you're seeing other people or hearing things that sound like at some point in the future, there might be something to fear? So I tell everyone, it's like, you can be prepared. We're going to go through some rough times. You can be prepared for that. You don't have to fear it if you're more prepared. The more prepared you are, the less fear. I've found a lot of people who are like stocked up. They've got everything in their house. They're ready to go. They've got their protection. They've got their food. They've got extra water. They've got, backup batteries and whatever they need. They're not as fearful because they're like, okay, if those things were to happen, I have a way to deal with it. I can get through it. So if that's what it takes, then do that for you. It's fine. It's a great idea, actually, to do it. There's really, in my view, there's no downside to being prepared. If nothing ever happens and you don't need it, no big deal. You bought what you bought. You'll probably use it up at some point anyway. And if something does happen, well, you'll be thankful that you have it. So a lot of people need that. They need that safety cushion, that safety net. Good idea. Do it. Just do it. Do whatever you feel that you need to feel so you can get out of the fear. Fear isn't going to make your business better. It's not going to make your life better. It's not going to make your health better. Anger is not going to help you at all. Being angry at this one and that one. And what I find is a lot of people get angry about what's going on out there. And you know what they take it out on? They take it out on the ones they love the most. The ones they're the closest to. They're the ones who take it on the noggin, right? They're the ones who get hit. You know, husband come home from work and he's been listening to news all day and he's so angry about what's going on out there. And, you know, all of a sudden his wife does something a little bit off and bam, that explosion comes out. That energy comes out at her. She has nothing to do with it. She goes, what in the world happened here? And she's like, I don't even want to see him, right? Go ahead, get out of here. You're sleeping on the couch tonight, dude. So you got to be careful about that because that emotion is very strong and very powerful. Anger can be a tremendous motivator. So can fear be a tremendous motivator. When we're in fear, we will do anything to get out of fear. I mean, think of 9/11. People jumped out of a 110-story building to certain death when they fell. They were so scared that was easier. Right? So people will do anything when they're in enough fear. They'll do anything because you can use that as a powerful motivator or you can use it to destroy yourself. And a lot of people are kind of in that mode right now. You can see it. You look at the way people treat you in the supermarket or, you know, on the highways or the side roads, right? People are cutting you off and they're just not as polite. They're not as patient. They're just like, they won't let you in if you have to get in. It's like, it's been that way now for, you know, the better part of two and a half years, coming up on 3 years very soon. And it's really changed the fabric of society. It's changed who we are. And we got to look at that from another perspective. And we got to say, okay, do I want to participate in that? Do I want to be, you know, part of that crazy? Or do I want to be sort of, you know, the one who can kind of balance it out a little bit, right? Be more of the stable one. Be the one who is a little bit calmer. Be Mr. Nice Guy. Go ahead. Be Mr. Nice Guy. It's fine to be Mr. Nice Guy. Just don't let people walk over you. Certainly you have boundaries, but you can be Mr. Nice Guy. You don't have to take that energy out on the wrong people. And that's what's going on a lot. So you could be that person. I really encourage all of us to be thinking in terms of that and say, okay, how do I help society? What do I do to change, you know, the fabric that's out there? Well, if enough of us start doing it, then we start setting the example in the opposite direction, right? The example of fear, we don't have to look at very far. It's everywhere. How about the example of anger? It's everywhere. It's not what we want. We need people who are stable, people who are more calm, people who have their life under control, right? And I know right now you may not have your life under control. And you got to take a deep breath on that and say, okay, how much of this can I control? How much of this can I deal with? How much of this can I, fix or alleviate or change? And if you can do that and get yourself calmer and get yourself out of fear, you know, whatever you need to do there. If you need the safety net, do the safety net. If you got to get the anger out, you know, go for a walk or something and just let it out, or find a friend who doesn't mind talking about it with you and get it out. But get it out of your system because it doesn't do you any good. Fear and anger, by the way, are cancer. Physically, cancer. If you look at why people get cancer, most often it's the emotions of fear and anger that are just bottled up and not getting out that cause that to happen. So one of the things you can do is make sure you get it out. It's therapeutic for you, but it's also good for your family. It's good for your career. It's good for your body. And of course, it'll be good for society at large. So we need to do that. We need to really be paying attention to our emotion, and it's okay to be nice. It's okay to be polite. I know we're frustrated. I get it. We all are. Things just aren't going in the right direction right now. We know that. Things are kind of upside down. I think I saw a survey today that Biden has a 12% approval rating. I mean, you know, we're all pretty much on the same page here. We don't want this anymore. This is going absolutely in the wrong direction. And, it's frustrating. It really is. It's going to get a little rougher from what I hear. We're going to have to be ready for that. And the stronger you can make yourself, the stronger you can be. In other words, get out of fear, get out of anger as much as you can. It's not going to be perfect, but as much as you can, get out of that, because that's not going to strengthen you. It's going to weaken you. You need to be positive, right? The people who are very positive and not fearful, the ones you always see in society, always rise to the top and make the most money and make the biggest impact, Maybe you're not looking to do that, but at least do it for yourself. At least do it so you are out of that mode of struggling and having to deal with those really, really, really powerful emotions. Unless you're using them to propel you forward, very few of us do. But otherwise you don't want them. You don't want to be dealing with that as much as you can possibly get away from it. Look, it's not easy. I get it. I'm on the phone 3-4 times a week with clients who are struggling with these things. I get it. And I see it in society at large. I go to the store. I was at the store this morning and I see it. It's like you don't see the smiles on the faces anymore. You see people who are defeated and literally defeated. And they don't know what to do. They're lost. And, when they're lost like that and they've got nothing to lose, they tend to be not friendly, right? And you can see that on their faces. It's hard to see. It really is. We had such a great society. If I go back to 2019, it wasn't perfect, certainly. I'm not saying it was perfect, but it was a lot better than it is today. Much more challenging today. So you can't fix that, but you can fix you. And I would suggest you work on you. Work on everything you possibly can to be strong, to be positive. Find that thing that's going to make you happy in the moment. It's really, life's a moment by moment thing. So what can make you happy this moment, right? For me, makes me happy. This is a fun thing for me to do. I like to do this every week. It's fun to do my little podcast here. It's fun to be able to share some wisdom, some ideas, some thoughts, some things I've run into. So I do this every week. It's more for me than it is literally for everyone else, but I know everyone else gets benefit from it as well. But I do it for me because it makes me fun, have fun, and makes me happy. So find those things that make you happy. Try to fit more of those into your day. Try to find places you can go that are calm and serene and away from the crazy, and just kind of like bring yourself back. If you need to go for a walk on the beach or walk by the lake, walk in the park, whatever it is that you need to do. Like one person this week said, I just need a brownie. I'm like, okay, go get a brownie. I know it's not the perfect thing for you. Just go get it because it's going to make you feel better. If it makes you feel better in that moment, that's great. And, we got to do what we got to do to get our emotions up, because we're being battered right now by just so many different directions. So I know you can do it. I trust in you. I believe in you. I know you have the ability to do this and really get yourself back into space where, things are going to start flowing again for you. When things get rougher, you're going to need that. You're going to be thanking yourself, saying, man, I'm glad I wasn't coming into the hard part, being in fear and being in anger. I was out of it as much as I can. And it's a process. It's a moment by moment process, right? So you're not saying, I'm going to get out of anger now and I'm not going to feel anger again. No, you're going to feel it again. It's going to come back. You're not going to feel fear. It's going to come back. You're going to get rid of it. It's going to come back. So it's a moment by moment checking in. And when it starts to come up, then you do what you need to do to alleviate it, let it out, get it out of your system. Don't bury it. And say, okay, I'm feeling fear around this thing. Okay, great. Is there anything I can do right now? Well, no, there isn't. Or yes, I could protect myself here. I could do this. I could go in that direction instead. And just get out of it as much as you can, because you don't want to be feeling that for very long. We're all going to feel it at some point. I get it. We're all going to be running into that. And, you want to be able to say, I know how to get out of it. You don't want to get stuck there. That's going to get you sick. That's going to ruin your relationships and your business, and it's going to ruin your health. And you don't want to get stuck there. And right now, it's like that's all that's raining down on us is all this stuff. So the best you can do to get out of it, do it, and do everything you can to get out of it. Do whatever you have to do to put that smile back on your face as much as possible. And could I even suggest that maybe you feel a little bit hopeful about the future? I'm kind of hopeful about 2023. I don't know that the rest of this year is going to be any good. I think we can just scrap the rest of it, just cross it off. I don't think it's going to be great. But, by 2023, I think we're going to start to turn a corner. The pendulum always has to, right? It's going to go to a certain point, and there's going to be that tipping point, that moment where it starts going back in the other direction. We're almost there. We're just about at that tipping point now where that pendulum's going to start swinging back in the other direction. So if you can be a little hopeful about that, just grab onto some thoughts like that, grab onto some visions of that kind of thing. It'll go a long way as we go through these next few months and into the fall of this year and whatever craziness is headed our way, we'll be able to better deal with it. It's our job. It's not anybody else that's going to do it for us. We have to do it for ourselves. No one's going to make you happy. You got to make yourself happy. No one's going to get you out of anger. You're going to have to do that. And if you take that responsibility, then you'll have more control over your life. And when you have more control over your life, you have more control over your destiny. And your destiny is great. And it's going to be bright. And it's going to be a great future for you. But you got to work on these things. And we all do right now. And, it's a moment by moment thing. We got to do it. Just keep focus on it, and just keep doing everything you can to be as happy as you can in the face of everything that's happening. If If you enjoyed this video, please share it with your friends, your followers. I really would appreciate that. And I will look forward to doing this again next week. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I really appreciate you. I love your comments, by the way. You guys have been emailing me and reaching out on social media. I really appreciate that too. Okay, see you next week.